What up, YouTube? Welcome to episode 4 of Not Your Average Bros. Before we get in today, I wanted to make a couple shout outs. First shout out I wanted to make was to Eli Martinez for all the support that he's been giving us on his chat rooms for Fortnite. So we really appreciate it. Second is to my dad. This is December 29th. It's his birthday, his 60th birthday. So I wanted to give my dad a happy birthday. So happy birthday, Dad. And then number 3, I wanted to give a shout out to my new nephew, Orion Schwalker. He was born on the 23rd of December, so this episode's for you. So without further ado, your fantasy football champion, roll our intro.
What we do here is go back.
Everybody, welcome to Nacho Average Bros podcast number 4. This is Rob. I'm recording from Minneapolis, Minnesota. This podcast is 4 best friends talking sports, life, and everything in between. Joe, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us where you're recording from?
Joe Schwalker, fantasy football champion, Keller, Texas. Loving it.
This is Jonathan coming from Lawton, Oklahoma. He got lucky. That's it.
This is Joseph Spot coming from San Antonio, Texas, 210. I don't know why John said he's lucky because John was like in this last place game, so he can't talk about that.
Hey,
so,
man.
John, keep that to yourself, But he was lucky, though. I was second place. He was lucky.
2020 was a rough year, bro.
Texas was
All right, fellas, before we jump into the first topic, I want us to just throw up your shoe game right now that you got on your feet. Let's see. We've all been friends for a ton of time, and I think we've all connected on the sneakers that we love to wear. Jordan 11 lows, UNC colorway. It's like we've got some Jordan 1s, newspaper. The obviously grail of Jordans, the Concord there. And then Li-Ning, is that the brand?
I think it's Li-Ning, but I'm all about the Li-Ning now. Those fly knits are hard. You know what? Going back to like we've all known each other since like high school, middle school. I can't remember how many times I heard like, "Oh man, you went to Tafoya?" Like, no, dude, I did not go to Tafoya Middle School, but I was always thrown in with you guys. I guess I had the Tafoya look.
You weren't lucky enough, man.
Wait. Isn't John from Lavernia? No.
What is he? Medina Valley over there?
Oh.
Get out of here.
I was there in Tafoya for 1 year. You went there for 1 year. Calm down.
You're lucky I went there for at least 1 year, man.
Look, we met young. Not all of us met. I think I met Spot in the 6th grade, John in 8th grade when he was wearing one Kobe sneaker on crutches. And then we met Schwalker in the 9th grade. Schwalker, you didn't miss anything at the Foya besides 7th graders driving themselves to school. And
then I don't remember though. We did beat Pole in middle school though.
We did.
And
You guys
So Schwalker went. So
yeah,
I mean,
you guys did have a nice gym though. I'll give
you
you
did.
that.
It was a nice gym.
Hey, I'm a winner.
Probably
now,
had
though.
the best middle school gym I've ever seen.
For being on the east side,
it was nice enough. We played there in high school. Like that was our.
That's
home.
true.
Yep.
For being on the east side of San Antonio, that was a nice gym.
Awesome. Well, fellas, we talk hoops a ton on this podcast. But I want to start us off with the first topic for today. So the San Antonio Spurs started the season 2-1, wins over Memphis and Toronto, a loss this week to New Orleans, very close game. Overall right now, some stats leaders for the team. You got DeMar DeRozan leading in scoring and assists, 21 and 9 respectively. Keldon Johnson starting all 3 games and leading in rebounds at 8 and steals a little under 2. I want to know, what are the early season takeaways you guys have for the Spurs so far? Obviously, just 3 games in. And Joe, we'll start with you.
If first off, I got to give a big shout out to Keldon Johnson. I think that he is continuing his high play outside of the bubble. And one person that I just thought about mentioning right now, Rudy Gay, coming off the bench and just he's playing, he's producing. We're using him in crunch time. Overall, the Spurs are just playing really hard. I don't know. Like, it's just hard to explain if number one, if they're going to continue this play throughout the season. Obviously, I think that we're going to get better with Derek White coming back. Vassell, hopefully he's going to get some more minutes here in the future. I know that the game ended funny against New Orleans, but it was kind of a different, route that we normally go. I would have liked to have Patty Mills have shot that shot. But and that's another player. Patty Mills is just coming out and producing as well. But right now, my takeaway: Spurs are balling. I think that Keldon Johnson is going to he's a fun player to watch. A different team, obviously, just overall fun. You just don't hear the word fun and Spurs in the same sentence, but this is the year that you will.
I agree with Joe over here. This Spurs team is really, really fun to watch. They're doing really big things. Keldon Johnson, like you mentioned, is playing out of his mind. He's playing hard. Especially, I know they lost to New Orleans, but that guy was flying around the court. You can just see the passion in his eyes. And this team has a lot of grit and things, like a lot of fight, a lot of dog in it that you haven't seen these last few years. So I mean, it's really exciting. I know we have the quick three, as they call them, Lonnie, DeJounte, and Keldon. These young guys are proving some things, and they're showing that the outlook is really bright for the Spurs. As far as like our leaders, DeRozan's playing really well. Joe mentioned Rudy Gay, DeRozan, Keldon Johnson. All these guys are doing really well. I do think that there's somewhere we need more. I think one guy that we didn't mention, even like before we've been talking about the Spurs, is LaMarcus Aldridge. Has Father Time caught up with him? Like, I haven't seen. I think he should be leading in rebounds. He should be one of the stat leaders on the team, but I haven't. I'm not sure what's going on. But overall, I think there's like a positive outlook on them. I didn't have them making the playoffs at the beginning of the year, but they're definitely making me think twice. So we'll talk more about it when we'll see.
So when I'm looking at them, I think I'm gonna go with the guys are talking about how Spurs are young, Spurs up and coming. It's exciting, it's new. A lot of young players. Even the vets that are on there are the energy kind of vets. I think the only thing that's missing, the one thing that's gonna put them over the top that we don't have yet, is that killer instinct person. The one's gonna put their foot in your throat and step on it and push on it. Duncan was a killer. Parker was a killer. Ginobili, we all know he was a killer. But they're not all dropping 30, 40 points. The Spurs now, DeRozan, he could drop 30. Aldridge, he'll give you 20 and 10. But there's nobody going to say, you know what, give me the ball, get out of my way, let's go. If Murray can get to that point, which I believe he can, give him some time, give him that jump shot, then we'll get there. But I think this is going to be the year that they miss it, but it builds the character. It builds the character. But we need a killer. We need a killer on the team, and we don't have one yet. Give us one, we'll be good.
Great call. I think my takeaway is same thing. I think we need some nasty. I think what we need to improve upon. We've got to finish third quarters. We've got to stop losing leads late in the game, and I think we've got to cut down on late game turnovers. So those fourth quarter, 5-6 minutes left in the game when we're getting empty possessions, we're turning the ball over, we're taking bad shots. I think we've just got to stop that. And we've got to be a little better on the boards. I think we gave up a lot of offensive rebounds against New Orleans, and it's tough. You got Zion and Steven Adams down there. I think it's probably pretty tough to keep them off the boards with anyone. But I think we do those things, we're in a great spot. Derek White's going to come back. And I'm anxious to see what that does to the rotation, who's coming out of that starting lineup. I think he'll start off coming off the bench, and then I would think you'd probably see Keldon Johnson revert back to a 6th or 7th man role for the Spurs. But I think, as everyone said, they're really fun to watch. They're young. They're hungry. Once they start to get some nasty in them, I think we're going to have a really, really good team that has a chance to get into the playoffs. So 7 games coming up with some really, really tough teams. I want everyone to give out a call for what you think the Spurs record is going to be after 10 games. So I'll start it off. I think we're going to finish at 7-3 after that 10-game stretch. It's a little I think I'm giving them a lot of credit for what they can do, but I think we're seeing the Lakers 3 times in that span. I think AD and LeBron are going to sit some games. I think if Kawhi is sitting for the Clippers game, I think the Spurs can still one from Utah, and I think they can get a couple against the Timberwolves. But I think we'll come out of that 7-3 with a really good chance to just continue on that. I think it builds a lot of confidence for the team. But we'll start with you, Joe, if you want to let us know. What do you think they're going to sit at after that time?
I'm going to go off of what you said. I think that either LeBron or AD, early season, it seems like the stars are sitting out. You have Kawhi sitting out tonight. This is December 29th as we're recording this. Kawhi sat out. You have LeBron that should have probably sat out against Portland. He played. I believe he's going to probably sit out one of those games against the Spurs or AD. So my overall record, I'm going to say, is going to be 8-2. I think that there's going to be a lot of fight within them. I think that, we've kind of talked about this in the past, like who is the Spurs' greatest rival? And y'all's argument, well, LA is probably our greatest rival. I think that we turn it up a notch when it comes to LA. I don't know statistically wise, but it always does seem like DeRozan does play against LA a little bit better. And I think that we finish off strong against Minnesota with 2 easy wins, but I'm going to call 8-2 just because how hard we're fighting thus far.
I mean, for me, these next 7 games, you look at the schedule with the Lakers, Utah, Clippers, Minnesota. I think we'll get the 2 at the end against Minnesota, but I think these next 7 will go 4-3. I think we'll get one of the 3 against the Lakers, and then one of the 2 against the Clippers. So that'll put us at 4-3, and I think that we'll, after these 10, we'll be 6-4. So, it is a rough stretch, but I think 6-4 is not bad considering.
Yeah, so I know y'all said 10 games, but I'm gonna look at the next 5. The next 5, it's 4 of those 5 are from the LA teams, and then you have Utah right in the middle of that. So you're going LA, Utah, LA. Everybody knows LA's gonna be number 1. Lakers are number 1. I picked Utah pretty high up there, so it's tough to see the Spurs get into that 5-game stretch without taking any losses. Pretty hard. But if they're gonna get 3 of those 5, which I think is even a tough task, because those are pretty good teams you're playing against. But if they can get 3 of those 5, then it'll set them up for those next 5. But I think if you're thinking about 10-game series within the next couple of days, get those first 5 first, and then we'll see the next 5 afterwards.
Perfect. So moving on from the Spurs, we're going to jump to the rest of the NBA. So there's 4 undefeated teams left, not teams that you would expect to be going into game 4 undefeated. And I've got to check. I know a couple of these teams are playing right now. But yeah, the Magic, the Cavs, the Pacers, and the Hawks all sitting at 3-0, all in the Eastern Conference. What I want to know is which of these teams is for real, and who do you think is going to last the longest undefeated? Joe, we'll start off with you.
Well, I was going to say the Pacers, but as of right now, they just lost to the Celtics. Cleveland, I don't know about Cleveland. I hear a lot about Darius Garland, and I do, like John, we do a lot of fantasy sports, and there is such negative talk when it comes to Darius Garland, and everyone puts him down. Oh, Darius Garland isn't going to continue to produce, but it's 4 games in now. And again, tonight he produced again against, I know that it's in New York. I'm not saying that they're for real, but I think that they could hover around that 8 spot. I'm really high on Indiana still, even though with the loss. Oladipo sat out last game. He was able to play tonight. I think that they're going to figure it out. And like I said, when we recorded our first and second episode, they're only going to get stronger when Jeremy Lamb comes back to get some scoring off the bench. So I'm going to say the Pacers are for real. They're going to be a legit contender. And then those Cavs, they're going to be a sneaky number 8.
Wow. Oh, well, hey, I'm going to say this. All 4 of these teams, even though you don't expect them to be the undefeateds in the NBA, if you really, really break them down and look at these teams, they're all really, really good. Joe just mentioned the Cavs with Garland, Sexton. They have Drummond, who is a beast on the boards and around the rim. Kevin Love, he's not the Kevin Love of old, but that dude could still ball. You look at the Magic, they got Gordon, Vucevic, Fultz, Fournier, Ross. All those guys, they're solid, I mean, they got several guys that can hoop. And then, even though it's fun, it's kind of funny because you mentioned that the Pacers just lost, but that is a really, really good team. And I would say that out of all of them, like that's the one that's like, I have them at number one. That they'll be the highest seed out of all these four teams in the East. And that's all East teams too, but you think about how deep it is in the West. I mean, it's rough out there, so it's harder to be undefeated. Atlanta though, I have them at number two as far as who's for real. I have Pacers at number one. I have Atlanta at two, and those guys could ball. And we kind of talked about MVP talk last time, and one person I didn't mention that I probably should have was Trey Young, and that guy is just balling out of control. But hey, if he gets into the playoffs, that's something that could happen. But I have Pacers. They're the most solid. They're never too high or too low. They're a lot of like the Spurs of old is, they just do what they got to do. They're not too flashy. They don't really have low lows. They don't have high highs, but they're pretty steady. So I say the Pacers, but Atlanta right behind them.
Real quick, I need to throw this out there. We need another fourth member. As he just said, Trey Young for MVP. Get out of here. Trey Young MVP. Are you serious?
Watch. Yes.
No, there is no way.
I'm not saying he's
no way.
MVP. I said he should be in a discussion.
Discussion for MVP. Yes. So you're going to tell me that he's one of the top 5 players in the NBA.
What he's going to do with this team? No one. Atlanta's so far under the radar. No one hasn't even, some people even haven't making the playoffs. He gets them to the playoffs and, a good record, and the dude balls the way he's doing. Why not? It's not even like Luka Doncic's, they got beat bad on Christmas Day. And then you got Giannis, who lost to the Knicks the other day. Why not? Why not?
Rob, I need your opinion on this. What you got, man? What you got?
It's
Trey Young MVP. Come on.
What's more far-fetched? Trey Young being an MVP talk, or Spots Golden State Warriors being the 3 seed in the West?
Okay, never mind.
You're talking about crazy talk. Right, you call me out. Spots said Golden State was going to be 3 in the West.
So I'll say this. So the Cavaliers lost tonight as well. So the Cavs are now 3-1. The Pacers are 3-1. Hawks are undefeated still, but they'll play tomorrow against the Nets. I would say most likely Dinwiddie obviously is out for the season, not going to play. Unsure of whether unsure of whether KD and Kyrie play tomorrow. If they don't, I say the Hawks then extend to 4-0.
I'm gonna make it easy for you. I'm gonna make it easy. None of those four teams are gonna make anything. All right, so let's just stop with that. The Trey Young thing, you can't be an MVP consideration if you ain't gonna make the playoffs. Let's just put it that way. Okay.
Bro, Golden State's not making the playoffs.
So we're talking about the undefeated team right now. We're talking about Golden State. Let's get that was a different video. That's a different video. None of those four teams are going anywhere. Let's just end it right there. You're welcome in the discussion. Boom.
So I'll give you a call out, right? The Magic and Cavaliers, great start to the season. Let's be realistic. Neither one of those teams is going to make a splash. I would put more money on the Magic finishing the season 69-3 than winning 5 more games, out of their next 10. I'm just being realistic. I think if you're a Magic fan, if you're a Cavalier fan, you want to throw a parade right now for being 3-0, do it. I think Sexton and Garland are 2 great young players, but they are not going to get you into the playoffs. I think Drummond cares more about rebounding there. Kevin Love is not the Kevin Love that was stopping, Steph Curry from hitting a 3, in 2016. So I think the 2 teams that are for real, the Pacers and Hawks, I think both of those teams, to John's call out, have MVP potential candidates. I think you look at Sabonis on the Pacers, who is quietly very, very strong, goes through anyone in there, has become their solidified best player and the person they're going to run the offense through over Oladipo coming back from injury. I think if I look at teams that are going to stand up over time, though, You've got the Hawks with Trey Young, who's dynamic. He's a huge scorer. He's small, right? I think you look at what Curry does. Can he withstand that for a whole year? Is his body going to be able to withstand, the pressures that are going to come from defense? But they've got a great team.
Can they add those pieces too that they gave Curry
Yeah.
for Trey Young?
And I think they've tried, right? Like they've got some, they've got some good forwards. You got Bogdanovich there. You've got Rondo, who's helping to mentor him.
Capella just came out yesterday.
Yeah, I think long term the Hawks look good. I could see Trey Young being in the top 10, maybe even the top 8 for MVP voting. I see Sabonis probably being in that same range. I think for sure the Pacers and Hawks are both, I think, for real. I think the Pacers get into the playoffs easily over time. I think the Hawks can skate in as an 8 seed, especially with the way the Wizards have played this season. So, I think that's where I'll end with those teams. Do I think they're at any shot to get into the conference finals, the finals? No, I think they've started well. I think the Magic just don't have the personnel to make a big splash. I think they'll be solid. They may contend for like the 9 or 10 seed throughout the year. But the Cavaliers, I think you're still sitting, 12th through 15th in the East. I want to move on now to early surprises from the year. So if we can go through maybe something that's really surprised you from a good sense, and this is really awesome, something we've seen so far in 3 games, and then something that stuck out as, wow, I didn't expect it from this player, I didn't expect it from this team. We can start with you, Joe, on that.
So I'm going to say 2 players, and I already talked about him a little bit here. Number 1, Keldon Johnson. Keldon Johnson just come out straight balling. Probably one of my favorite players. It's just the hustle that he has. He has that, to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he has that Ginobili hustle. He just wants to play. He wants to earn his minutes. He's continuing to fight every night. And then also Darius Garland. Darius Garland, for me as a fantasy player, has been balling every night, including tonight. And then I'm going to add one more in there. And I know that they're undefeated right now, and they're probably not going to continue that route. But Marcel Fultz, he's been coming out without DJ Augustine and him moving on. He's come out and has been producing for that Orlando Magic team. So I'm happy for that guy. As much flack as he's probably received as far as, oh, you're being the number 1 pick and you're horrible, you suck, what have you. I think he's used that as motivation. I love individuals such as Derrick Rose. Derrick Rose is probably one of my favorite players of all time. They hear all these negative talk and comments about him, and then all of a sudden they're using it as motivation. So I'm going to say Markelle Fultz as a number, like a little sneaker in that conversation.
Unmute yourself, Sean.
Sorry. My surprises weren't necessarily individual players, but some really good things that I saw this past week was really just the amount of like how fun, like a lot of the teams, like, every year you talk about the bad teams and the good teams. Well, like even the bad teams are pretty good. And like I was going through a lot of the games yesterday, watching, clicking through. There's a lot of exciting players in the league, and there's a really bright outlook for the NBA. Especially with all the movement like superstar players have done. It's just a lot more parity than there used to be. It used to be like every year who's gonna win a championship, even though like I know Lakers are like probably the heavy favorite to win. But there's a lot of teams, even in the Eastern Conference that are really good. And I'd say that's like one of the pleasant surprises of this year is like how good teams are. And also like there's still a lot of rust from teams because training camps and the leagues, I mean, everything's just a lot different this year. There's a lot of rust and they're trying to figure it out, but everything, the outlook is good for the NBA. And this season's going to be really fun to watch. And I would say like the bad surprise that I saw, I don't know if you watched Dallas and the Clippers this past Sunday, but man, without Kawhi on the floor, they're setting records and not in a good way. And Dallas, they it was 50. They were down 50 at halftime, and you just kind of scratch your head. Like the Clippers are supposed to be this team that top 2 or 3 in the whole league, and they just to lay over like that, lay down, not even put up a fight in the second half. Because if you're down 50 at halftime, where's the dog at? Like where are you gonna come? Like where's the respect that you have to fight. And you didn't even see that in the second half. They just let it go. They still lost by 50. You know, you at least cut it down and make it a little more respectable. I mean, lose by 20. Even, I mean, that's bad, but it makes you kind of wonder about like Paul George's leadership, you know, the team, you know, like who's the leader there. So that's my surprise.
So I guess I would say my biggest good surprise. I don't know what to call surprise, but I want to congratulate Giannis, man. Him getting paid, him putting his work in from when he came into the league to where he's at now. Kudos to him, man. Like, I mean, good job for him. I'm surprised that they gave him that much money and not building more around him. Now, again, he's got good players, but do you have that player that's by your side that's going to take you to the next step? And I don't feel like they did that for him. Bad surprise, which I guess people would call it surprise. Harden's still with the Rockets. I honestly thought before the season started, he'd be done somewhere else. But that's Houston. He still likes to drag the feet on a lot of things. Me being from San Antonio is going to dog Houston all day. The team, the city is dirty. It's nasty. Nobody likes Houston. Don't go over there. You come to Texas, don't go to San Antonio. I mean, don't go to Houston. Go to San Antonio. Stop by Dallas. Dallas is kind of nice, but don't go to Houston. Nobody goes by over there.
He's ain't that, man.
But those are probably my biggest surprises with just them giving them the amount of money they gave him, and for Giannis, and then not trading Harden. That was just, he obviously wants out. Get him out of there. And I think it's dragging, and that's probably my biggest worst surprise, to be honest.
Why are you hating on Houston, man? Paul Wall, man, come on. Mike Jones, come on. Houston produces, man. You know, and I just wanted to cut in real quick.
But they ain't doing the music no more, so I hate on it.
You know, one of the surprises that I did forget to mention was how hard Harden did play in that very first game. As much as he's wanted to trade, as much as he's wanted to get out of Houston, you could tell with him missing that last shot, it really affected him. So I think that's somewhat of a surprise that he is still playing that hard for a team, but you know, that just makes me like Harden a little bit more. And we talk about Harden a lot. I think he's a great player, and I love that he came out and was still fighting for a team that was very depleted without John Wall, without DeMarcus Cousins, without you know, majority of their roster to come out and still produce with Wood, which was a surprise to me. But yeah.
Which like I said too, like, I mean, Harden's a hooper. He's gonna hoop regardless of what's going on.
Yeah, man.
And it's no diss to Harden. It's a diss on Houston because they're not taking the proper steps to get the player out of there like he wants, and they get pieces for people that want to be there.
He's a hooper, but a lot of the playoff struggles they have lend themselves back to James Harden and the style of ball he plays. I think if he wants to leave, he's got to understand that ball, it has to change. And I think a lot, right? He was playing under D'Antoni, he was playing Daryl Morey's system. So he played what was needed. I want to see if he goes somewhere, can he play a different style of basketball? Because if he goes in doing the same thing, he's just not going to be able to accomplish it. I think, you know, my takeaways from the season on the good side, I think I'm really impressed with a lot of the rookies this year. I think you had what was called a weak draft, you know, and I think you've seen Anthony Edwards, who I had concerns with, coming into Minnesota and being picked number 1, who's played very well. I think James Wiseman has played extraordinarily well. You know, LaMelo Ball's not shot the ball well, but I think he's infused a lot of excitement into the Hornets team. And I know I didn't, but I don't think anyone thought he was going to just light it up from downtown, right? I think he was drafted on his height, his athleticism, and his ability to pass the ball, and he's done exactly that.
There was a lot of people that thought he was going to just come in and just be balling. Maybe his dad was the main one.
I think he got hyped, but I think the rookie class overall has performed pretty well. There's still some that, you know, waiting to see from. I think, you know, we talked about Vassell on the Spurs, and he hasn't played a ton, but I think overall for the class where the class was ranked, they did a good job of coming in and showing improving for a lot of those upper echelon teams.
They got a lot of skills.
Yep. There's a lot of skills there.
Skilled players. They're not just come in, I'm going to drop 30, I'm going to drop 40 on you. They've got actual skills that will help them build and help a team actually win.
Yeah, I think you'll see this draft class have long-term potential where they're maybe not going to have the superstars, but you're going to have a lot of 10-year, 11-year vets on teams that are really serviceable down the road. I think, when I look at some of the surprises, a couple of the teams that stick out to me that I worry about. So the Nuggets, 1 and 2, I think they're up right now a few points on Sacramento, but they've got some early season losses. And I thought after last year and coming back from a 3-1 deficit to the Clippers, obviously losing to the eventual champ, the Lakers, I was interested to see, like, what are they going to do with this season? Like, are they going to come out and just run like hell over other teams? And I think you've seen Jokic play well and then Murray play well another night. And I think, like, they haven't put it together right away. And I think some of the pieces that left, so Torrey Craig's, are looking like they were bigger than it would have been anticipated from the beginning. And I'm still looking to see, like, how does Michael Porter Jr. become that third player to complement the other two? I don't think he's good enough right now to overtake either of those guys, but where does he go in the next 10 to 20 games to show, like, that's how great the Nuggets can be? And then I look at, obviously they lost a lot of personnel, but teams, like the Celtics have underperformed, I think, for the year. They just got a much needed win tonight. You look at the Nets, who've obviously had some injuries, and then the Raptors, who just looked rough and looked like losing Ibaka and Gasol really hurt them this offseason. I think they've got some guys who can go out there and make plays, but Siakam's looked, inconsistent through the first few games. So I'd love to see what they do over it. So I think rookies look really good. Teams that we thought would be established playoff contenders look bad right now for us. So last topic of the night, guys, and we'll do this quick on a roundtable, but this is not sports related. But I want to see, all of us married, all of us fathers, what amount of money do you either at some point your significant other is going to question you spending, or at what price point do you say, I have to share this with my significant other? I'll say for me, it is low. So I, about everything over $50, I share with Amanda. We're pretty connected on finance and what we're doing as far as our accounts and our savings. We don't have joint accounts, but we do share anything that we purchase. And I think anything over 50, I would probably hear a smart remark about you think you got money or something like that. So that's my mark, but I'd love to hear from you guys where we sit. So Joe, we'll start with you.
Oh man, as a big collector, and we'll get into it in future episodes, I'm lucky that KB and us, both of us, actually the whole family, we're all big collectors. I collect a lot of Dragon Ball stuff. My daughters collect a lot of Mario stuff, a lot of Pokemon stuff. So we're always at, stores spending a decent amount of money. So I'm going to say that I could probably spend 100 without her getting mad. But I always still let her know. So I guess I could kind of answer the question. I'm going to say 100 right there.
Gotcha.
Dang, guys, $50, $100. I go grocery shopping and spend more than that, man. All right. Let me see. Well, if it's like a spontaneous purchase, not grocery related, I would say one time when we first got, we started living here at our house, I got excited and went to Bed Bath & Beyond and bought some pots and pans and knives, and I accidentally spent like $500-$600. But the value was like $1,000. But it was for the house, so I think she was okay with it.
Cool.
Well, guys, this is sorry to cut you off, Spot, but we're running out of time. We will see you guys next time on episode 4. We'll start off with Spot. I apologize, but we'll see you next time. Please $5. Subscribe.
Yes.
We'll see you.